fuck is this? Welcome back to The Fuck Is This? The amazing show with this name I chose. And because that's a question I've been asking for over 30 years now. The fuck is this? Where am I? How did I get here? Or what am I doing? I'm back with the birds. It's beautiful spring. I have the window open. So I heard people enjoy that, and I do too. So I'm back from a longer break, which was just a little depresh break. I just didn't feel like recording anything or doing anything else creative for a while. And now I'm back. I feel like doing something again. And I had this thought circling my mind the last day or two that I would love to share with you. So this one is about the idea of I treat you the way I would like you to treat me, which I think is a very beautiful idea, something that I would like to live up to, and I guess a lot of people have some version of that as a moral basis to live by. And I want to talk a little bit about the main issue that I see with it, not with the statement itself, but how it applies in the lives we are living currently. And maybe that helps us to get a little bit of different perspective on how we treat each other, how we would like to be treated, and seeing how others would like to be treated. And I think on a basic level or a very fundamental level is to recognize our own and other people's needs. So I want to start with describing my idea of personalities, why our personalities are so different, where that's from, and that might be something familiar to some of you and maybe something new to others. So the word personality, and I got this from Alan Watts, and to be honest, I haven't 100% fact checked this, so you're welcome to do that. But apparently the word person comes from Latin or Greek persona, which means mask. So in Roman theater, they didn't have speakers as we have them today, so they would wear masks that also have like a mouthpiece, kind of like the front of a trumpet, that would make the sound louder, and also the mask would show a certain expression that the portrayed character would have. So the word that we use to describe how we show up, our personality, we use a word that comes from the word mask, which maybe says a lot already. So I believe most of our personality is kind of a mask. Something that I was quite aware of the last weeks in myself, like how different I act and talk and show up in different environments with different people. And I strongly believe that this persona, um, these traits, are formed in early childhood through our experiences. And I believe that a lot of it, maybe most of it, as we live today in current society, is not healthy. Um, and what I mean by that is that our personality mostly revolves around us trying um, to create a feeling of safety through certain practices. And with practice, I obviously don't mean something we do consciously, like a workout practice, but something that we just practiced for such a long time that it became our, like, something we do subconsciously, or it's just our, we call it behavior. And just to give you some examples so you might have a better idea of what I'm talking about, is when we, for example, learn through how the people around us, the closest people around us, often our parents, our family, our teachers and peers, if they give us um, the feeling that we are not important, our ideas are not important. Like if every time we say something, I don't want to put the blame on parents. I just want to focus a little bit on parents because I think they have the biggest influence, especially very early in childhood. When we, for example, present an idea, show something, and they seem disinterested, or they're more focused on the quality of whatever we have to say than just being open to whatever we have to say, or they just emotionally, mentally not present, like, yeah, just disinterested. We might learn that we are not interesting and our ideas are not interesting, so we become more quiet, and don't speak up when we have an idea, and become more secluded. And I think that, for example, is like part of my personality that formed over the years and that also changed. And then there might be another person that learned from their environment, from their parents, that they always need to help them. Maybe the parents were helpless in certain ways. Maybe they were struggling with addiction or with mental health issues or just with life itself. And that person was like really challenged to help all the time. And so they might learn that they always need to help, otherwise other people are not there for them, are not present because they need their help. And a very conventional people pleaser is formed. And I guess we all have a certain aspect of that in us, and we might all know someone who is very much like that. And maybe that's even you, always feeling like you have to help and give, and then might feeling frustrated because it seems like people don't give back. Um, and I think there's way more examples, way more personality, like archetypes. Um, and of course, nobody is one thing or the other. Like, we all have parts of all that. But I feel like most of us are quite strongly leaning towards one of these archetypes. And I chose those two because the issue that I feel comes about is that someone that I just described that might be like has a strong people pleasing tendency and always wants to help, maybe reaches out all the time asking, hey, can I help you? How are you doing? What do you need? And this person comes in contact with someone like me who's more secluded and wants to have their own space and wants to put up strong boundaries. Um, Now, if I try to treat this other person the way I want to be treated, I'm not talking to them very much. I'm not reaching out much because I, in certain times at least, often want to be like left alone, like given my space. Maybe that sounds a little bit more um, better. Um, so so if I treat others the way I want to be treated, I give them a lot of space, and I don't want to intrude their privacy. So I won't call them because they probably have something better to do. Because when I am called, I feel like, oh no, now I have to answer that, and I have to respond to something. I'm not prepared, so I won't call other people because I don't want them to feel like that. But if this other person is someone that actually wants to reach out and spend time and talk about things, then they might feel like I'm neglecting them. And that's a conversation I did have with people that felt like neglect. They're like, what's wrong? Did I do something wrong? You never reach out. And on the other hand, if that person is like constantly hitting me up and calling and asking like, hey, what are you doing? You want to come out? I feel intruded in my privacy, and I might even um, um, like pull back more. And I probably think like, oh, what's wrong with him or her? Like, why they, what do they want from me? Like, can you please just back off a little bit? Um, and now you can imagine like all these other kinds of people. Like, now that I think about it, this example I just mentioned, we could generalize, break it down to maybe extrovert and introvert. Um, but there's also a lot of other personality traits that we might have um, that differ a lot from each other. And so if I imagine everybody feeling the way I do and having the same needs as me, so what I was talking about just now in the example is like my need for my personal space and my personal time, and another person's need for spending time with others and help them and do things for them. So these are two very different needs. And if we predominantly experience one of them, then we don't really it just doesn't work. Like, I try to treat the other person the way I want to be treated, but the other person actually doesn't want to be treated the same as me. So I think the basic assumption that we all want the same treatment is just false. Now, why I brought up the how we get these, or how we come to these personalities, at least in my belief, is that I would say, like, the biggest part of the personality is, like I said before, unhealthy, which means like all these things we do is basically coping mechanisms. Like, I still experience wanting a lot of space and time for myself, but I believe, and at least I have this idea, that there might be a future more healthier version of myself that actually does enjoy spending time with other people, being in community, in communion with other people. And I think that requires still some inner work, for lack of a better word. Yeah, some changes, I think some breaking down of that mask, for parts to feel more safe, to not wear the mask and be open. And I believe if we all in that way heal, like become more of ourselves and more whole and less living through this mask, I think on a very fundamental level we do all have the same needs, at least very similar. I think then the nuances become smaller and smaller. And maybe another way to say that, or to phrase it, is that a lot of the time we live with the activated nervous system. So we're in this kind of vigilant state where we always look out, like, what do I need to do? What do I need to or not need to do to feel safe, for the other person to think I'm not crazy, that I'm normal, that I fit in. And yeah, from this perspective, from this state, I think this idea of treating each other the way we want to be treated probably doesn't really work, because in this state we have all these different coping mechanisms that don't really work with each other. Sometimes they do, and maybe if someone is like very similar, I guess we all experienced that before, where someone is like, maybe you're like super chatty and you always want to hang out with people and you always want to talk about everything in your day, and then you meet this one person who's like your best friend, and you just do that. You always meet up and you always, both of you, talk a lot, and that's amazing. And then I definitely met people that we can just spend hours together, like not talking much and sometimes talking much, and it just works, like, because we have a similar idea of how much space or how much engagement we need. But again, if those personalities are very different from each other, it's I think it doesn't really work. So I believe if we can all work through this, and our nervous system become less activated and we live more from a calm and peaceful state, I think, I believe our needs will be way more similar, almost the same. And then this statement would work really well, and at the same time I think we wouldn't really need that statement anymore, because it would be quite obvious that the way I want to be treated, I treat others. So maybe one idea that comes to mind is, I think we all want to be treated with respect, and so we want to treat others with respect. But then again, I guess what it means to respect someone can mean very different things to all of us, depending again on how we learned what respect means in the environment we grew up. So I guess what we could try to do is, with other people, especially the people we don't feel so connected with, where we see we are very different in the way we act. So for me, for example, that is someone who's like taking up a lot of space, is like talking very loud, talking a lot, like not really giving much time for me to start talking, which I usually need. I need some time to process and then respond with a certain idea. And when I realize, oh, this is like frustrating, I don't like what's wrong with this person, I think what we can do in situations like this is like first being aware of what I was talking about, that we have different personalities and different needs. So maybe while my need is to process things and then like give an informed response to something, that other person's need is to just vent, to just get everything out, because I don't know, they don't have anybody else to talk to, and it's important to them. So from this place, then I can say, okay, this person's need is not to be left alone, but actually to be heard, which doesn't mean I have to listen to them, but at least I'm more aware of what their actual need is, and not just assuming their need is the same as mine. Yeah, I think this is the main point I wanna communicate with this episode. I hope it helps one or the other, finding more compassion with others, and also with yourself, because I know it can be very frustrating thinking we are doing the best for someone else and they seem ungrateful, or even are like hostile in some way, like get angry or frustrated, or say just leave me alone, or say why don't you help me more, like both ends of the spectrum. So maybe it helps some of you to realize, like, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you or with how you act. It's more that we might not understand each other as well as we hope to. And then also understand that someone else who maybe feels like there are a lot, or it feels like they are neglecting you, it might be that they just think that's your need because it's theirs. Yeah, I hope this really helps us all to understand each other a little bit better, and maybe also be open to ask ask each other, like, what do you need? And that doesn't need to sound like this. I know this language can be sometimes off-putting. It definitely is to me. Like, I probably wouldn't go to someone, even if it's a close friend, and say like, hey, what's your need today? But maybe we find our own words and just realize, like, I'm assuming this person needs this right now. They need help with this, but maybe they actually need or want something else. Yeah, so maybe next time something we get frustrated with someone else or with ourselves, we can take a step back, remember this, and just ask, like, hey, is this really what you need right now? Or maybe do you need something else? Something that I can help you with, or maybe something that I can't. Yeah, and I guess there's lots of learning opportunities for all of us with all our different needs and personalities and quirks. Yeah, and I'm gonna leave you with this. Hope you have a wonderful time. My intention is to do this again, probably in the near future, but you never know. Maybe it's gonna be a few weeks again. I love you all very much, and talk to you soon. Bye. The fuck is this?